Before we begin, do we have either of the other congressional candidates with us? Okay. We will begin then with former Supervisor for San Benito County, Peter Hernandez, and Lawrence Milan. Each of you will have a 30-second introduction, and we will begin with you, Mr. Hernandez.
Hi, Hi, my name is Peter Hernandez. I'm born and raised here in San Benito County, served locally as your local elected Hollister School District Board member from 2014 to 2018, and County Supervisor from 2018 to 2022. And some of my proudest moments is honestly showing that my intention was to show respect for local control and make sure that we had representation, that our community was benefiting. I was actually part of the Riverview Park, where we ended up funding a big project. It was a long time coming, and roads has been a big part of the achievements that we've had. We actually officially are starting to develop a lot of these roads.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. We do have one more candidate. We welcome Mr. Kifle to our stage. Mr. Milan, could you do your 30-second opening?
Of course. Hi, everybody. My name is Lawrence Milan. I'm born and raised in San Jose. First generation Latino, a father of a farm worker. Grew up with a single mother who taught me one very important thing, and that was survive through community. It's through community and uplifting from the bottom upward that we create and facilitate growth and love. And so that's what I've done with my life. I started volunteering as a Boy Scout with my local church, and then when I was at San Jose State, I helped start a nonprofit program with students suffering from mental health issues. When COVID came along, I started volunteering.
Thank you, Mr. Milan. Thank you. 30-second opening, Mr. Kifle. Could you give us a 30-minute introductory opening? 30-second, not 30-minute.
Sorry about that. So my name is Luele. I am from Ethiopia. I came here when I was 11 years old. I have lived in California for the past 4 years, and I decided to run because, people like me, people like you need real representation in Congress. And I believe that I can do that for you. So that's why I am running.
Thank you. We now begin our questions. And I just want to say, before we begin with the questions, in the past we have asked the question each time a candidate was to answer. This time we were only going to ask the question once. You have the questions in front of you if you need to remind yourself of them. Our first question is a community question, and a community question is a question that you have sent to us to ask the candidates. So, Mr. Kifle, you are first up to answer this. Just so you know, we chose the order randomly, so you're first for this one, okay? Community question, is Hazel Hawkins Memorial Hospital bankruptcy a failure of local control, or is the health district model no longer suitable? What can Congress do to help small or rural hospitals?
I believe that Congress can do more funding for, rural and smaller communities. I believe that we need more funding from the state and local government along with the federal government. So we should get more funding, and help build more hospitals and more clinics that are accessible to rural communities.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez?
So my understanding of the issue with Hazel Hawkins is there's been lack of input from the public. There's been lack of ultimately oversight. We have a board that ultimately hasn't had, I think, the focus of making sure that they're the ones that are the policymakers in the room and not the administration, right? That's why they're supposed to be considered the legislative authority. They set policy and set direction. That also obviously means that they have oversight over their hospital. And ultimately, they bring in the public to understand the issues. I do believe that there's wisdom in the counsel of many when we find ourselves actually learning from our public, understanding what the issues are, making sure that we're addressing those issues and we're responsive to those issues. Then not only do we have a happy stakeholder community, but we also obviously have a functioning administration. So I really do believe that our hospital needs to be a JPA, some sort of local function, because I do believe in local control. That's where the rubber meets the road. The people that are actually being dealt with the services, that are overseeing, making sure that those services are being handled wisely.
Thank you. Mr. Milan?
So this question has a lot going on. We have an issue of healthcare, and it looks like an economic and business issue. From a healthcare standpoint, rural communities need more hospitals, more funding. How do we do that? Single-payer healthcare system. We can do that and save thousands of dollars from out-of-pocket expenses. That allows for the government to directly intervene with hospitals when they're going through economic issues such as bankruptcy. And it removes the idea of a not-for-profit hospital or a for-profit hospital. It creates a one-to-one program where we're supplying constituents and others with the help they need. And it also provides more county and city government control because they're getting direct funds from the federal government. So what can Congress do to help smaller rural hospitals? Divert investing from things that are not even ancillary or tertiary. They're things that military funding, we can cut sugar subsidies. We can cut tech subsidies like at Tesla, where you have people getting billions of dollars of stock buybacks. And we could use that money that we get, instead of giving to them, to our rural communities. I live in San Jose. I know how much money San Jose has. Why are they getting so much, and why aren't you getting more? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Our second question is, the EPA states emissions from transportation accounts for 29% of total greenhouse gas emissions. How can the federal government help California counties like San Benito get commuter cars off the road? Mr. Milan?
So we'll start with infrastructure. Our infrastructure that was built in the 50s from Eisenhower, or the 60s, sorry, was for cars. I don't see any trains. There's no viable option of that here. Our own President Joe Biden brags about being able to go to Congress every day from Delaware via train when he was senator. Why can't we have that for people here? Whether it's from King City to here or here to San Jose and wherever else they may need to go. In terms of how federal government can help counties investing in green technologies, there's tons of ways that we could do solar out here. We could create jobs that allow for people to stay in their city, build their city, and helping their city thrive while cutting greenhouse gases, because our climate is at a terrible point. And by creating infrastructure, which is going to cost, and it's going to be a big cost up front, we can change the future, not for me, not for you, but for our children and kids. All right, 30 seconds. Let's see what else I can say. EPA states emissions from federal government also can set stricter regulations on cars, steel, wherever else we may need, so that when we build things, they last. Instead of building buildings for 20 years, they could last 100 and 150 years. So make sure that we invest in long-term viable fixes, not upfront quick fixes that in the end won't do anything.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez?
So, two-part question, I think. Ultimately, I think that when it comes down to solutions, if we're looking for solutions about getting commuter cars off the road, that's asking about efficiency and ultimately innovation. And I would argue that that's why trusting in the people themselves, the private sector, to be the administrators of something that would create an efficient process. But when it comes to, infrastructure itself, we're actually talking about a current administration that just passed the IIJA, which is the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, $1.3 trillion stimulus bill. Ultimately, what it amounted to is $25 million for rural roads. If we're talking about San Benito County, $25 million out of $1.3 trillion, that's not very much for rural areas. And that's why I would argue that I would bring forward, as your congressman, the Preserve Rural America Act. We need to have a focus of restoring not just local control, but respect for the resource counties. If you look at the urban areas, they obviously they have all the resources that they need, and it's usually the rural areas that get dismissed. I know when I was a county supervisor, an SB1 formula was actually being in the position to be amended, and ultimately local small counties like ours were going to be on the chopping block. The reality is we really need to have a bottom-up government, and that's what I would propose. We need to start restoring respect for local governments, work with them instead of talk to them.
Thank you. Mr. Kifle?
I think that we need more electric cars. Also, we need more public transportation. We don't have that money right now, especially in the rural area. We don't have any bus, no train, nothing. So we need to build more public transportation that's cost effective to the citizens of San Benito and other rural country and county, as well as building more charging stations throughout every 5 mile or every 10 miles from city to city, and we need to build more charging stations so that people will have more chance of buying electric car or wanting to buy more electric cars, so that we can eliminate emissions. And I think that also we need to cut down on gas cars. That way we can eliminate what do you call that? Eliminate emissions.
Thank you, Mr.
Also.
Kifle. Thank you. Time is up. Our final question for this panel is a community question. San Benito County relies on farm workers who come from other countries. As Congress debates the immigration issue once again in 2024, what are your ideas for reform? Mr. Hernandez.
Well, as you all know, or I would hope you would know, I'm a first-generation Mexican-American. I'm an immigrant. I come from an immigrant family. My mom worked the fields 30 years in San Benito County. I know what it's like ultimately to sacrifice and to work hard. So the idea of becoming an American was a proud moment. Actually, my father was the one in getting his citizenship who rehearsed the Declaration of Independence, and his broken English shared it with me, and it definitely inspired me. Ultimately, when it comes down to our immigration process, obviously it's broken. There needs to be a streamlined process to address it, but just the same, we need to obviously preserve the intentions of the sovereignty of our nation. You can't define a nation without sovereign borders. That obviously means you address that. You address the human trafficking, the drug trafficking. I would argue we need to strengthen citizenship and obviously respect it. We can't be handing out the benefits that come with citizenship, like our governor who just gave out 700,000 immigrants, basically, ultimately health care, medical care, and that's obviously without regard for those that have already paid into the system. And this is not anti-immigrant. I am one. This is actually pro-American. What it means to me is that we have to actually restore respect for those that have paid into the system, because there's only so much resources that we have. And then when it comes down to not just the sovereign borders, but we also need to address the cartels. I think this is a serious reality. I lived it as a kid. The cartels are a dangerous faction along our border.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
And they've commercialized humans.
Mr. Milan?
Ideas for reform are treating human beings as human beings, and that's something that America chooses not to do all across the globe. So when we have people coming into our borders and treating them like animals and putting them in cages, that is terrible. ICE needs to be get rid of. Because that money, we can create a new justice system for immigrants so that when they come across, they're not treated like animals. And in terms of being pro-American, America is built on the blood of dead Indians and natives. So I don't know what pro-American looks like to you, but pro-American is someone I am. And it involves, let's see, new court systems, new travel systems so that people with visas can get to where they need to go. Expanding visa programs so they're not seasonal, they could be even longer.
We ask that the audience remain quiet and allow the candidates to answer.
It costs thousands of dollars and takes years for people to get citizenship. And people who work in the farm fields doing the most grueling jobs out there deserve easier and more accessible ways to get citizenship. Thank you. I'm glad we can agree. But to rely on a pro-American idea, no. We are a nation that is sovereign. We we give bombs to Israel so that they can keep their sovereignty. We're set. Our borders are honestly fine. Look at the convoy that was in Texas and found nothing. We are doing as good of a job as we can, but with more funding, we can do better, and that's by pulling resources away from ICE and other things that don't treat people like humans.
Thank you, Mr. Milan. Mr. Kifle?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and agree with my fellow candidate, Mr. Milan, that vilifying immigrants is never okay. Putting them in cages is not okay. Separating them from their family and then not knowing which family goes with who is not okay. I am an immigrant. My dad, who in the audience, he's an immigrant. We work hard. We come here. We work hard so that we can provide for our family. So I think that the whole border, what he was saying, that the whole border situation is not really what media makes it out to be. Don't believe the media, because I have seen videos where there have been open borders with nobody walking in, nobody. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So we need border security, but not even we don't need to dehumanize anyone in America. We all just come here to make our life better.
Thank you. We now give all candidates 1 minute for a closing statement. Mr. Hernandez?
Thank you, audience, friends and family, Benito Link, for hosting this event. I've served locally as a county supervisor, I would argue one of the toughest of times. It takes a lot of resolve and an attitude definitely of camaraderie, trying to work with individuals that you disagree with. It takes a lot to ultimately get the votes to move something forward that actually executes an action that creates a benefit to the community that you're intent on serving. With that attitude, I actually found myself in a position in my 4th year as a county supervisor to be nominated as the chair of the Board of Supervisors by my fellow Democrat board members. And I say that proudly because we were working together very strong on restoring, ultimately, the issues or addressing the issues in our community, like our broken roads, like our parks that were lacking. And in Congress, I'm going to be serving with that same attitude. So I know we have to work together, but I also know we have to speak with clarity.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Mr. Kifle?
Oh, thank you so much, San Bernardino County, for giving us the opportunity. And thank you to the audience for showing up here and listening to us. We need a government that listens to the people. And you know, I mean, she's not here. Joe Laughlin is not here because she doesn't believe she has to earn your vote. She feels entitled to your vote. She hasn't done anything for any of us in the past 30 years. We need change. We need a government that works for us. That's it. So I hope I'll be lucky enough to be your representative in Congress. Thank you.
Mr. Milan?
Quickly, just want to let you know, thank you so much for having me be here. I studied psychology, behavioral science at San Jose State, so I understand how things can intersect and how complex of a society that we have and how much love and attention that needs, and how if you were to vote for me, that's what I would work on. Showing love through healthcare, showing love through the expansions of schools, so that's college, trade schools, making sure that people aren't left behind. It took me a long time to get through school, and there's days I never thought I would, but I was able to persevere and overcome, only through the help of my community, especially my wife, who's here in the crowd tonight. I want people to know that I will draw a line in the sand and make sure that we act in good faith and not in donors' faith. I want to make sure that people understand that me as a representative is someone who's always going to try to continue the idea of understanding and progress what understanding is, so that when new things pop up, when new generations have new needs, I'm there to be able to serve them. And if I can't, I understand that and will leave. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the panel for the Congress race.